And we're back again. This is part two. So, part two deals with the international scale. So, here is the one that I created for teams for international scale. And right here, again, coming back, it all comes back around again, is issues of uh, niche tourism. So, niche versus mass tourism. So, niche tourism refers to special interests, relatively small numbers of people, usually higher cost. And there's three big types. Well, there's more than three big types, but the three that we talked about were adventure tourism, movie location tourism, either locations themselves or theme parks like Disneyland or Disney World that are designed around them, and heritage tourism, where you're looking to experience historical sites, artifacts, indigenous people. You can look at, you can have all of these in one place. We looked at the country of New Zealand's website. They really promote these different types of niche tourism with Lord of the Rings. You've got a lot of physical adventure tourism, and then a lot of historical places as well. We did this little breakdown of costs and benefits. I believe it's on your note sheet, but it's good to look at what are costs and benefits associated with niche tourism, just kind of remembering a couple that apply to the places we talked about. Transnational corporations are a way for a country to develop its international tourism when they make it part of their economic development, like Kenya, which is an article that we read kind of as a separate assignment. So make sure you've looked at that if you haven't. But looking at how they can develop their primary and secondary resources using outside money typically. And by outside money, I just mean these are corporations that operate in a lot of different countries, thus transnational, and they are bringing in money to invest in the tourist industry of that place. They kind of fill in the gap, as we said, facilitating travel. And the big question is, here's some examples, airlines, hotels, cruise lines, tour operators, travel agents. But the big question is, are they providing equitable solutions that are helping out the local economy and the low-income country develop its economy? And that's always a push and pull, because obviously if they weren't there investing that money, there would be no investment money, because that tends to be why they're invited in the first place. But they also want to make sure that's actually benefiting the local economy. And there's a lot you can do with this as well. Issues of the multiplier effect, like is the income gained by local people circulated throughout the economy? Is it adding diversity of exports? It's labor intensive, so it can become a huge it can become a problem of it can overcome problems of unemployment, both rural and urban areas. But on the downside, you have to make sure that all stakeholders, or the stakeholders that are seeking to benefit, are actually benefiting, and it's not at the cost to those local stakeholders as well. We also talked about hosting international events. There's a video about problems with hosting the Olympic Games, and why countries may or may not want to bid for Olympic Games. And then we did a case study of London 2012. So this was an excerpt from London, UK's application to be the host of the 2012 Olympic Games, and why they had particular resources that would be helpful or beneficial for that. And then we did the case study where you looked at how it impacted London. And again, we're trying to look at economic, environmental, and social impacts. And as long as we can break those down and see them and look at some cost and benefits, that is all we really need to do for something like that. So that was the big, if you look at the big objectives for section 2, it's kind of looking at costs and benefits related to these types of tourism, what these types of tourism are. And then we did a case study of one country hosting an international event. We didn't do the World Cup, but you can definitely talk about that as well if you know more about that. All right, last one. 5.4 was all about managing tourism for the future. This was the one that had several outside assignments. So make sure you go back and you take a look at those if you get a chance. So if you go, we had an article on the future of sport and on the future of tourism, and there are some questions. And then there's also an article about sustainable tourism over time, over tourism and carrying capacity, things like that. But one good model to know about tourism is called the Butler model, which says that over time, tourism will kind of reach its carrying capacity, very Malthusian perspective, and it can be thought of as a resource for a nation or locality. But eventually, because of physical, ecological, or perceptual issues, it will reach its carrying capacity, and you will end up with touristic stress. And then you have to either A, experience decline, which is actually E on this graph, or you can have rejuvenation of your tourism, much like you can have urban renewal or urban rejuvenation. You can have tourist rejuvenation, or some kind of in between. there. And then I had an explanation of these different steps that's in your note sheet as well. Leakage is an issue, which is basically money leaking out of the local economy and going to other places. Not all leakage is not always bad. It's just that you have to weigh it against the cost to the community and the local community and the sustainability of that tourism. So sustainable tourism meets these requirements, or at least has these aspects. Renewable resources are not consumed at a rate that is faster than the rate of replacement, maintaining biodiversity in the area, respecting local cultures and environments, involving local people in the development process, using resources sustainably, reducing overconsumption, responsible marketing. What? My light just turned off on me. I had this infographic about it as well. And then we also talked a little bit about ecotourism, which is kind of a type of sustainable tourism, a niche type of sustainable tourism, if you will, and how that operates. So very small scale, involved with local, potentially indigenous residents, use of public transportation, low environmental impact. And there's a video that showed some examples from Iran, the polar ice caps, Botswana, and Africa as well. Looking forward to the future, international tourist arrivals are expected to reach 1.8 billion per year in just the next 5 years. And destinations in Asia and Latin America and Central and Eastern Europe and the Middle East and Africa are all increasing. And right now, Europe and North America tend to be popular places for tourist destinations, but these other areas are experiencing change and growth, and thinking about their sustainability is important. You had an article that talked about the impact of social media, international security, and diaspora, and how that's impacting sports and tourism. So make sure you've checked that out, and you can give some examples of how these are impacting the future of sport, leisure, and tourism. So that's it. The only other thing we're doing is we're going to finish up the Madagascar case study, which is ecotourism or sustainable tourism in a rural area. But we also looked at some different examples, like in Copenhagen, of not ecotourism, but sustainable tourism as well. So that's kind of an overview of this unit. So hopefully it gives you the ideas, and hopefully this is helpful for exam season as well. That's it. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Let's keep those likes higher than those dislikes. All right. Peace.